Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtadar Khan, your host, and today I want to talk to you about a crisis that has developed, a diplomatic crisis between India and Iran. As you are aware by of this news item, but before I pursue this matter, for those of you who watch Conversations regularly but have not subscribed to the channel yet, please subscribe to the channel and like these videos and share them with your socio-political network. So, as you're familiar today, Iran fired on two Indian flagged vessels and forced them to turn around. One of them was actually a super oil tanker carrying literally mm, millions of tons, barrels of oil. And you can hear the voice of the discussion that is going on between the oil tanker of India and IRGC's boats, which hailed it. You can
You
see it.
gave me clearance to go. My name, second.
1 second, let me remove this, and so you can listen to it now.
You gave me clearance to go. You are fighting now. Let me turn back.
So this is an Indian tanker that is.
Sepa Navy, Sepa Navy. This
That's the
is
name.
Motorangastan Marhadal. You gave me clearance to go. My name, second on your list. You gave me clearance to go. You are fighting now. Let me turn back. Sepa Navy, Sepa Navy. This is Motorangastan.
So that's the name of the oil tanker Sepa Navy on which Iran fired. Now, Iran did not hit the boats. Can you imagine? There would have been a huge explosion. Not only would that end any traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, but it could lead to an ecological crisis which would affect the entire region. There's so much oil in that oil tanker. So this has resulted in a crisis. And as a result of that, the Ministry of External Affairs of India summoned the Iranian ambassador, and obviously, this is a very formal expression of this, shall we say, unhappiness or discontent with your diplomatic partner. And this is the message issued by the Ministry of External Affairs of India. It says the ambassador of the Islamic Republic of Iran in New Delhi was called in by the Ministry of External Affairs for a meeting with Foreign Secretary this evening. I mean, this is a very soft expression. Was called. They didn't use the word summoned, for example. So India is being very gentle in, but the very act of calling the ambassador is a foreign way of is a foreign policy and diplomatic way of formally expressing some kind of discontent. During the meeting, Foreign Secretary conveyed India's deep concern at the shooting incident earlier today involving two Indian flagged ships in the Strait of Hormuz. He noted the importance that India attached to the safety of merchant shipping and mariners and recalled that Iran had earlier facilitated the safe passage of several ships bound for India. Reiterating his concern at this serious incident of firing on merchant ships, Foreign Secretary urged the ambassador to convey India's views to the authorities in Iran and resume at the earliest the process of facilitating Indian bound ships across the strait. The ambassador of Iran undertook to convey these views to the Iranian authorities. What is interesting to me from this is as to how softly India has handled this. But why did India have to choose this formal way of expressing? So, for example, why didn't Dr. Jaishankar pick up the phone and call Abbas Arakchi, or Prime Minister Modi call the president of Iran? They have done this in the past. And in fact, in the past few weeks, India has conveyed this impression that there is a constant discussion between Dr. Jaishankar and his counterpart, Abbas Arakchi, Dr. Abbas Arakchi of Iran. And then Prime Minister Modi also spoke with the president of Iran a couple of weeks ago. So the message that was being conveyed to us was, oh, India is maintaining a strategic autonomy, even though it stands with Israel. And Prime Minister Modi went all the way to Israel just 3 days before the war starts and said that with full conviction, I say that India stands with Israel. And so while India has formally taken sides with Israel and the United States in this, because India has not condemned either Israel or the United States for attacking Iran, a sovereign state in violation of the UN Charter, which India wants to uphold by becoming a permanent member of the UN Security Council. So India says that, oh, we believe in international law, we believe in multilateralism. Multilateralism means appreciating international institutions, international norms, international law. Since India believes in all of that, then why did it not condemn either the US or Israel for breaking international law by attacking Iran unilaterally with no sanctions from the UN Security Council on this particular issue? Not only that, India said nothing about the school where over nearly 160 to 180 young women, children were killed, young girls, by US and Israeli attack, which is a war crime. India did not condemn the US or Israel for the attack on many other installations like high schools, universities. These are all war crimes that the US and Israel are committing. And all India says is, oh, we should keep the Strait of Hormuz open, and then criticized Iran on more than one occasion for shutting the Hormuz down. Even now, India says that we need to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, but right now, the Strait of Hormuz is closed not just by Iran, but also by the US. So Donald Trump has blockaded the Strait of Hormuz, and India has said nothing about it. India is mum. When it comes to the war crimes and criminal activities of the United States or Israel, India has nothing to say. Not a word, not a peep. There's much talk about India maintaining a strategic autonomy and etc. So why isn't it critical? Does India think it is justified to attack Iran? And then how can it expect to have good relations with Iran? Either India did try to send a signal that, oh, we are being balanced, we're talking to Arakchi, etc. So anyway, so now the question really is if you remember that in the morning session when the first news broke out, I did a discussion on this in the Hindi and Urdu, in which I said it's quite possible that the moment Iran announced that it's resuming its blockage or control of the Strait of Hormuz. So Iran has not blocked the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is controlling the traffic through it. And when it did that, perhaps the first ship in line may have been Indian ship. And so they basically wanted to send a message to everybody by telling Indian ship to stop and turn around. When it did not do that, they fired on it. And obviously the ship then turned around and went away. That would have been signal to all the 2,000 ships, marine merchant ships and oil tankers which are stuck there in the Persian Gulf. This is a message to them that if they try to go through it without getting a direct one-on-one case-by-case approval of the Iranians, they're going to be fired upon. So that was my speculation, and I was right. If you listen to the Indian ship's captain,
You gave me clearance to go. My name second on your list.
So I was right. He's saying that his name is second on the list. So he was the second on the list. It's very interesting to see who was on the first, and I will shortly tell you who it might have been. So this is a message that went to all other ships and said, "Oh my God, these Iranians are serious." Because Donald Trump has been saying that Iran has lost its military capabilities. Iran has absolutely no air force, no navy, no nothing, and so Iran cannot do anything about the Strait of Hormuz. We have it in control, but that's not true. Iran not only demonstrated its capacity to shut down Hormuz, but its political will to do it, even in the face of a great power like India. So that is an important development. So the point that I'm trying to make is that why didn't Dr. Jaishankar directly talk to Abbas Arakchi? Why didn't Modi? If the relations with Iran are very good, then that is what we would have done. If something like this happened with France and US, for example, then the US is not going to invite the ambassador to the state embassy, and some deputy of Marco Rubio is going to talk. Trump will just pick up the phone and call Macron and say, "What the heck, man?" Because they have such close relations. So the very fact that India is going through a formal process itself shows that the claim that the relations between India and Iran are just as hunky-dory as they were before India publicly announced that it stands with Israel is not really true. And India does have a problem. So I went and checked whether Iran had fully shut down. Now, you must know that even though the US is blockading the traffic from outside, the US ships are all on the outside of the Strait of Hormuz. So they are based in the Gulf of Oman. The Iranians are more on the inside, on the Persian Gulf side, and on the sides, on the banks of the Strait of Hormuz. So Iranians are controlling traffic that is going out mostly. And the US is also controlling traffic in both ways, ships that are going in and out, but both of them are not blocking the entire traffic. So there was traffic today, and more than 10 to 12 ships went through, and I checked on some of them, and I'll tell you which they are. But the blockage that Iran is doing is it is selectively blocking all shipping, but it has allowed in the last 12 hours since it announced that it has once again taken control of Hormuz to allow ships that are going to China, allow ships that are Russian, which means Russian ships which might be taking oil or whatever they are doing, trafficking through the Persian Gulf. So they have allowed Chinese ships, Russian ships, Pakistani ships, Malaysian ships, Egyptian ships, and South Korean ships. South Korea, Egypt, Pakistan, Russia, China. So these ships have been allowed, including Egyptian so far. But they fired on India, which is quite stunning. I mean, what has South Korea done that it gets this privilege and India does not? I'm betting that South Koreans probably are paying the fine. I doubt if the Egyptians and Pakistanis are paying the fine, or Chinese or Russians. So probably in all of these ships, only the Egyptians, maybe even the Malaysians may be paying. But why does Malaysia need oil? Malaysia itself is an exporter of oil. So it's something else that is the traffic. I don't know. Or the ships are just owned by Malaysians, but they might be going somewhere else. For example, in the last 3 4 days, when the Strait of Hormuz was opened, a major super tanker owned by Saudi Arabia was allowed, which came to India. So in the last 1 week, I think 3 ships have been allowed, which are this destination was India, may or may not have Indian flags or Indian ownership. But this is a major development. We have not seen what the Iranian response is. The Iranian response is not bilateral. They are not saying that we are stopping Indian ships. Their response is a general policy. As a general policy, we are responding to American blockade. So what happened to Indian ships is not because Iran is blocking India, it's because US is blocking Iran. And if India wants to complain, it should complain to the US, which India will not do because it is afraid of upsetting Donald Trump. One of the countries that has turned out to be so afraid of the US has been, and now as the news is coming clear that Donald Trump is not coming to India this year, there were all these plans that he would come last November. It didn't happen. Then they said he will come for Quad. India's entire presidency of the Quad is over. Now it's Australia, and nothing happened. So Australia has told India to continue with it, and so India in May is going to have the heads of state meeting where Donald Trump said he's not going to India and he's sending Marco Rubio instead of the head of states. So let us see if the Japanese Prime Minister, the Australian Prime Minister, and Modi attend with Marco Rubio or not, or India reduces the Quad summit from that of heads of states to just foreign ministers. We will see what happens. But it's very clear that Trump is not coming to India in May. He's going to China in May around 14, 15. In fact, there was some news that he wants to go to Pakistan now if the ceasefire deal is negotiated. He might actually go to Pakistan to finalize the deal. But he's not coming to India. I don't think he will go to Pakistan, but we'll see what happens because the chances of this deal coming through seems to become less and less likely, even though the chances of the US resuming a war. One indication that Donald Trump is very serious about the ceasefire was the Truth Social post in which he told Israel to stop bombing Lebanon, and he used the word Israel is prohibited from attacking Lebanon because the Iranians are concerned that as long as Israel continues to attack Lebanon, there cannot be a ceasefire. So Donald Trump is trying his best to maintain ceasefire, but he's also jeopardized it by trying to blockade Iran. And the reason why he's blockading Iran is because he's under this pressure to make sure that he does not look as if Iran is profiting from his foreign policy decisions. One of the critiques that the Republicans and the right wing people have made of Obama and his agreement, the JCPOA, which was signed in, I think, 2015 between Obama and Iran, US and Iran under Obama, was that Obama gave a lot of money to Iran. Obama did not give a lot of money to Iran. Uh, Obama allowed Iran to take the money that America had seized, which belonged to Iran. As of now, for example, there are about $5 or $6 billion that belong to Iran, which are frozen in Qatar, which is being negotiated. And Donald Trump is perhaps going to allow that for the Iranians to draw that money out of Qatari banks. There's also this discussion that Donald Trump is willing to pay Iran $20 billion to get back the enriched uranium. So these proposals are floating around and discussions are still going on. And there was all this chatter about Asim Munir, who went all the way to Tehran and met some of the leaders there. And I think he also met with the office of the Wilayat al-Faqih, the Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader. And there was talk that he would come back to Washington with some counteroffer from Iran, and we don't know what has happened about that. I don't even know whether Asim Munir has come back from Iran after spending 3 days in Tehran to US, or has he gone back to Pakistan. But nevertheless, this is a very serious development between India. So what India did was, I don't know whether to call it escalation, a diplomatic escalation or not. But to me, what is interesting is that India made it a formal process. India has gone through a formal process of talking to the Iranian ambassador rather than just picking up the phone and calling Abbas Arakchi. So if India had great relations with this country, why would you not do that? You know, it's like saying that it's like saying you want me to come on your show, and so you just pick up the phone and call me and say, Dr. Muqtadar, I have this show. Would you like to come on my show? And if I say yes or no, if I say no, there's a formal process. You have to send me a formal email and there is a form that you have to fill. Then that shows that we are not good friends, right? So the fact that India is going through a formal process shows that something has happened, which shows that India-US relations are not that chummy. There's a lot of anti-Iran rhetoric going on Indian media, especially central media. A lot of abusive anchors saying negative things about Iran, abusing Iran's foreign minister, people who are very close to the Modi point of view and to the BJP. And the Iranian embassy in consulate in Hyderabad has taken note of it and has responded. That happened just 24 hours ago. So I don't know if there's any connection between that and the firing on this Iran. And it is very clear that Iran has downgraded India, and India is not in the same, from an Iranian point of view, India is not on the same level as Malaysia, South Korea, Pakistan, Egypt, China, and Russia, whose ships are sailing in spite of it. And what's also interesting is that these ships are not only just going through the Iranian blockade, they're also going through the US blockade. So, what is the United States doing with all this talk of, we are going to blockade Iran's harbors and Iran's ports, and we will not allow Iran to export any oil or make any money and benefit from control of the Strait of Hormuz? All that talk from Donald Trump, and then he allows Chinese and Russian ships to go through. So, it is very clear that everybody seems to be operating within their limits. The US does not want to confront China directly. So, for example, the US will have to do what Iran did to India, to China, which means that one of US warships will have to confront an oil tanker that is destined to go towards Iran. So, once the American Navy sees a ship, merchant ship coming through the Strait of Hormuz, they probably hail it and say, hello, who are you? Where are you going? Or they put on their transponders. And then it says, this is an Iranian ship or this is a Chinese ship heading towards China. And the Americans are letting it go. If there was a true blockade, they would just fire in the air and say, look, turn around or we will sink you. just what Iran did to India. Turn around or we will sink you. If that super tanker or oil tanker had not listened to the Iranians and continued to go through, they would have been shot. There's been so much talk in the past. This war has been going on since 28th of February, entire March, 31 days. Uh, 32 days, including the day in February. And then now 18 days. So this 32 plus 18, that's 50 days this war has gone on. There was so much talk of India sending its navy. India is concerned about maintaining security and openness of the Strait of Hormuz. Why didn't Indian Navy go down there and then escort India's ships through the Strait of Hormuz? That's a question for Indian media to ask the Indian defense minister or the prime minister or foreign minister. Because if you remember, maybe 3 weeks ago, we heard all this talk about Indian Navy. We heard the talks about Pakistani Navy going there and escorting Pakistani ships. We don't hear anymore. Well, with Pakistan now, it's kind of special. Pakistan stature on this issue has become very high. They are constantly negotiating. Asim Munir went to Tehran, so obviously the Iranians are going to let his ships go through. They don't need the navy. They seem to have the soft power and the direct. They are in a very enviable position. So all of these negotiators, Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar, for example, even though none of Qatari ships are being allowed out or in, are part of the negotiation. So there are basically the four negotiating teams, to some extent, sometimes Oman, sometimes Qatar, but Egypt, Turkey are also playing a role. But the most prominent role is being played by Pakistan, so they are enjoying some benefits from that particular stature. So now the ball is in the Iranian court, and we will see how they respond to India. And so India has requested, if you read the Ministry of External Affairs position, this is he noted the importance. This is Misri, India's secretary. He said he noted the importance that India attached to the safety of merchant shipping and mariners, and recalled that Iran had earlier facilitated the safe passage. In the entire 50 days, about 15 total ships heading towards India have been allowed. So roughly one every 3 days, bound for India. Reiterating his concern at the serious institute of firing on merchant ships, Foreign Secretary urged the ambassador to convey India's views to the authorities in Iran and resume at the earliest the process of facilitating India-bound ships across the strait. So this is the thing. So the Iranians, the ball is in Iran's court. There's no threat, nothing that is attached to the, at least in the Ministry of External Affairs public statement. If they made any threats privately, we don't know of it. And the Iranians haven't said anything about it yet. So it's up to the Iranians. Either they allow the ships to come through. Tomorrow we will know. If they allow Indian ships, then okay, there has been some impact of this particular démarche by India. Or the Iranians will say no. Until the blockade is not lifted, we will not allow your ships. And then the ball will be in India's court. Will India reach out to the United States and say, what you're doing is also illegal. You are also blocking traffic. They're very quick to say this about Iran, saying that what you're doing is, unacceptable, blah, blah. But they don't say that to the US. They don't have the guts to say that to the United States publicly or even privately. Donald Trump calls on the phone and say, oh, we talked about the Strait of Hormuz, but there's no criticism of what the US has been doing. So I don't think the Indians, anybody in this government in India has the courage to call Donald Trump and saying, why are you blockading the Strait of Hormuz? This is against international law. This is what you're accusing Iran of doing, right? That you're blocking the Strait of Hormuz, you're violating international norms and laws of seafaring laws. There are lots of these laws about keeping trade open, etc., etc. International law and international norms have gone out of the window. There is no role that UN Security Council has played. There have been resolutions that Bahrain introduced in the UN Security Council, which were passed. The first one was vetoed by Russia, China, and France. One of them was, and one of their China and Russia abstained, and it passed. And there was no mention about Israel or of the US role at all. I mean, what kind of international law can UN Security Council uphold when it is unwilling to stand up to its own values? So most of the world seems to be helpless in the face of the United States, and we call this a multipolar world. This is certainly not a multipolar world. This is a unipolar world where Donald Trump gets to do whatever he wants it, whether it's legal or illegal. No country, great powers like India, which talk about multipolarity, etc., and multilateralism, are not able to say a word. The Chinese have, but not they are not taking any action. The Chinese have threatened to take action if the United States stops their ships, and the US is not doing that. So at least China seems to have some power and leverage in the game. And the Russians, oh my God, they have shown the most guts. That they have given Iran intelligence to hit US targets. So Iran was able to hit many serious uh, targets. Uh, and so, so that is an interesting development that is going on the sidelines as to what is going to happen. And if Iran does not allow India ships, say for as long as its blockade of Hormuz continues until there is a full understanding between the US and Iran and there is a resolution to this, what does that do to India's relations with Iran? That is the big question, really. And in order to understand that fully, we also need to understand what happened to. We didn't have the time to make an assessment of what was the impact of Modi's speech in Israel, saying with full conviction we stand with Israel, just days before Israel was going to attack Iran. What did that speech do to US, to India Iran relations? How could they be normal? How could they be normal? Imagine this. Imagine what's happening in Operation Sindoor. And one day before Operation Sindoor, if some country's head of state went to Islamabad and said, with full conviction, I say that I stand with Pakistan, what would India's relations be with that country? Will it be just as friendly as they were before that speech, before that statement? That is the question. Unfortunately, we didn't get much time to fully assess. I did write an article about it in the Diplomat. If you have time, go read it. And I can share a link to that if I can find it as we seek. Yes, I found it. I will share the link now with you. You can go and read my article. This was published on February 26, actually within 24 hours of Prime Minister Modi giving his speech in Israel. So, but there was not much debate. We didn't get to hear from the Iranians because they were immediately attacked by Israel and the United States. The leadership was also decapitated. Most of the leaders were killed right away. So I don't think Iran even had the opportunity to process what happened. So at some point, once this war is over, then there will be, I think, the Iranian, whatever is left of the Iranian intelligentsia and their strategic community will do a reassessment of what has gone on. They will probably do a review of their relations with some key countries: Pakistan, India, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Egypt, US, Europe also. Uh, did the fact that Europeans did not join the war against Iran, will that improve Iran-Europe relations is an interesting question. Did the fact that the Europeans refused to join Donald Trump to basically liberate the Strait of Hormuz from Iranian chokehold through military use, that could count in favor of Europe. And there's already back channel negotiations going on between Europe and Iran on these issues. Will that carry some weight when the Europeans come after the war to try and negotiate with Iran to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and free, because they're worried about the toll that Iran wants to impose of $2 million per ship? It's going to raise the cost of gas, and it's going to raise the cost of insurance. A lot of it's going to hurt many economies, including European economies, and especially the economies of the global south. So there will be a lot of reassessments, I think, from an Iranian perspective. I mean, the United States is also rethinking a lot of its relations. So you can see that it is rethinking its relations with India. They have completely downgraded Quad. If you remember 22, 23, 24, there's every few months there used to be this hype. India, US, India, US, India, US. Joe Biden asks for Prime Minister Modi's autograph for his granddaughter. The Prime Minister of Australia says to Modi, "You are the boss." And there was all this so much of chatter about the great importance of India in the eyes of the West. And now suddenly all that has gone. There's no two by two meeting which were happening every year. Two by two is the Secretary of State and Defense Secretary, or now Secretary of War, or Foreign Minister and Defense Minister. So there were those meetings that were going on during the Biden administration. None of that has happened. The foreign ministers quad meeting, the last meeting was when the Trump administration was uh, confirmed. On the same day that Secretary Rubio was confirmed as Secretary of State, he met with Dr. Jaishankar and the other foreign ministers of Japan and Australia for the first Quad summit. I think one of the first things he did was to have the Quad summit, but since then nothing has progressed. So yes, there's a reassessment going on from the US point of view, especially with NATO. There's so much chatter of the United States withdrawing from NATO or downgrading it. Anyway, what the US has done so far has made its membership in NATO less credible. Europeans are less willing to trust the US and its promise that US will defend Europe if it is attacked. So yes, there's going to be a lot of reconsiderations and recalibrations of foreign policy after the war. But this particular development is very important because it is going to affect India's so-called multi-alignment policy. That see, in moments of peace, if India says that I'm friendly with Bhutan and I'm friendly with Nepal, fine. Until Bhutan and Nepal go to war against each other, then it's very difficult if you are on one side or the other. So until now, India got away with by saying that, oh, we have great relations with Arab countries, and we have 1 crore Indians working there, blah blah blah. Even in Iran, we have Chabahar port. Now that is gone. It was the alternative India's answer to China's Gwadar port in Pakistan. So if Donald Trump even has good relations with Iran and lifts sanctions, will that mean automatically will India have access to Chabahar port? I don't know. So there is going to be a lot of it, and Iran's leadership has been so devastated by the war. I think their first focus will be on rebuilding and getting money to rebuild. There's a lot of chatter that Donald Trump might ask Arab countries to contribute, and the bill is going to be in the excess of 250 to 300 billion dollars. So Iran's first task will be to rebuild not just its infrastructure that has been damaged and destroyed in this war, but also perhaps it might start rebuilding its military capabilities, and then it might start revisiting its relations with its neighbors and others. So anyway, that is what I wanted to share with you. I think it's a major development, especially the fact that India made it a formal process rather than an informal discussion on the phone. And who knows, there might have been an informal discussion on the phone. Maybe Dr. Jaishankar did call Abbas Arakchi and they had a conversation, and maybe India was not happy with what was shared. I don't know. We don't know that. I'm just speculating on this. So there was an informal. If it was resolved, then we would not know that, right? So that's one of the problems uh, when you are relying on OSINT, which is open source intelligence. I don't have access to closed sources, secret sources. So that is where we are. And thank you for watching Conversations. Please like this video, press the bell icon. Don't forget to share it with your socio-political network. I'll be happy to take a few questions if there are any interesting questions. Manish Chaudhary, good morning to you. Uh, My messages, Bebar says my messages are deleted by YouTube. I don't know. Maybe you are violating any some of their principles. I hope if your language is good and you're not using bad words, then I think YouTube will not ban them. I don't know why. I have not seen your messages, so I can't tell you why YouTube is banning your messages. This message of yours is visible. I can see it. I am sharing it. Baybars 3138. Uh, I'm looking for interesting. Beba says India does not like Iran. Okay. How do you know that? Is there a public opinion survey that was conducted in India that I don't know of? Did Modi say this? Oh, that is because Iran is Muslim. Okay. India is against Muslims. Well, these messages are coming through. Nadia, after a while, Nadia, can you please invite Professor Marandi on your show? I've been thinking of doing that. I will. Um, okay, we'll try. He's a very busy man. He's in big demand, Nadia. If you have his email address, just send it to me at askprofkhan@gmail.com. ASKPROFKHAN @gmail.com. Yes, there is very clear indication that people are playing the stock market. There was this exposure of Pete Hexet's dealer trying to take advantage by short selling oil. So yes, it's very clear that people are. I hope the U.S. government, this government obviously is not going to investigate this, but the next Department of Justice investigates and sees if there are. It should be very easy. You know, there was a $580 million of betting on the stock market just before something Donald Trump said or did about the ceasefire. But I'm convinced that a lot of people close to the administration must be making money. So, for example, when Donald Trump said, "Oh, we have ceasefire," the stock market shot through the roof. We had like 900 points up on Dow Jones index. The S&P index reached the highest point ever in history. The price of oil went all the way down into the 80s. And then when Iran came back in response to the US blockade of Iran with its control of Hormuz, then the oil prices are back up in the 90s now. Let me just check what the Brent oil price right now is. Uh, it's at 91, so it has gone up. It had gone a little higher. Yeah, it's at 91, and it had reached 95 just 2 days ago, and then dropped to. It went down all the way to 86, and now it's back up to 91. That's a lot of margin and profit to be made right there, and also a lot of damage to developing countries. Uh, anyway, so I hope so too. I hope so too, Javed, that people can then go to Bangladesh and live safely rather than live in these states where even the chief minister uh, tells people to attack its own citizens, not pay them full amount. If you negotiate 5 rupees, pay them only 4 rupees. These are the things that the chief minister of Assam has been saying, and he's openly, pointed guns and made videos of him trying to kill Muslims. Yeah, forget about Muslims. Even Indians, nobody wants to live in India. Apparently, they're just running away. In America, we have now 800,000 illegal Indians. And they say it is Amrit Kal in India, but they're migrating out like crazy everywhere. They were just going anywhere but India. And these are also upper caste Hindus. This is not just Muslims who are running for safety. Even Hindus are leaving the Hindu Rashtra for a better life in a non Hindu Rashtra. It's very sad. Rohit Narang, hello, how are you? Good evening, sir. Off topic. Recently, there was an incident of unknown gunmen in Pakistan, and recently, Canada police has also warned Sikh activists against threat to their lives. I did not follow that. I'll take a look at it and get back to you. I'm just focused right now on the war. The geopolitics of it is the main thing that's going on, and you know, it's like saying that the cricket World Cup is going on, and you're asking me a question about a match between Colombo and Patna, some club cricket match. So yeah, I find it very interesting how some people just focus on some, but nevertheless, I'll take a look at it if there's any geopolitical implications for that. Um, but anyway, thank you for watching Conversations. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtada Khan. Take care. Bye.